Letting go of the past. Heal from regret, guilt, and missed chances so you can move forward lighter. By T.M. Light. Description: discover the transformative journey of healing and self-discovery in this motivational guide. It empowers readers to release emotional burdens, reframe past experiences, and rebuild their identity beyond mistakes and missed opportunities. Through practical strategies for self-forgiveness, mindfulness, and embracing uncertainty, readers learn to move forward lighter, cultivating resilience, clarity, and inner peace. Perfect for anyone struggling with regret or feeling stuck, this book offers actionable insights to transform your relationship with the past and step confidently into a future defined by growth, freedom, and possibility. Chapter outline. Introduction: The weight we carry. Chapter 1: Why we hold on. Chapter 2: The hidden cost of regret. Chapter 3: Understanding guilt versus shame. Chapter 4: The stories we tell ourselves. Chapter 5: Making peace with missed opportunities. Chapter 6: Forgiving yourself. Chapter 7: Letting go is not forgetting. Chapter 8: Releasing control and what-ifs. Chapter 9: Rebuilding your identity beyond the past. Chapter 10: Moving forward lighter. Conclusion: A new relationship with your past. Introduction: The weight we carry. There is a quiet weight many people carry, often unnoticed by the outside world but deeply felt within. It does not show up in obvious ways, yet it shapes how you think, how you feel, and how you move through your life. It lingers in the background of your thoughts, surfacing in still moments or late at night when everything else goes quiet. It is the weight of the past, of things said and unsaid, choices made and not made, chances taken and chances missed. You may know this feeling intimately. It might come as a memory that replays itself over and over again, as if your mind is searching for a different ending. It might appear as a quiet voice reminding you of what you should have done differently, or as a heavy sense of regret that refuses to loosen its grip. Sometimes it feels like guilt, a deep ache tied to actions you wish you could undo. Other times it takes the form of endless what-if questions, leading you down paths that no longer exist but still somehow hold power over you. What makes this weight so difficult is not just the events themselves, but the meaning you attach to them. Over time, these experiences begin to shape how you see yourself. A mistake becomes a label. A missed opportunity becomes a belief that you are not capable. A painful moment becomes proof that you are not enough. Without even realizing it, the past starts to define your present. And yet, there is something important you need to understand right from the beginning: you are not alone in this. The struggle to let go of the past is a deeply human experience. Every person, in one way or another, carries memories they wish they could rewrite. Every person has moments they revisit, wondering how life might have been different if they had chosen another path. This is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you have lived, that you have cared, that you have tried. Holding on to the past is not a failure. It is in many ways your mind's attempt to protect you. It replays situations to help you learn, to prevent you from making the same mistakes again, to make sense of things that once felt confusing or overwhelming. But somewhere along the way, this protective instinct can become a prison. Instead of helping you move forward, it keeps you stuck, replaying moments that no longer serve you. The truth is, the past has a way of convincing you that it still has control. It whispers that you are defined by what happened, that you cannot move beyond it, that your story has already been written. But this is not the truth. It is simply a story your mind has learned to tell. This book is an invitation to question that story. It is an invitation to look at your past, not as a chain that holds you back, but as a chapter that has already been written. It is an opportunity to understand that while you cannot change what has happened, you can change the way it lives within you. You can change the way it shapes your thoughts, your emotions, and your sense of self. Letting go of the past does not mean pretending it never happened. It does not mean forgetting the lessons you have learned or dismissing the pain you have felt. It is not about erasing your history or denying your experiences. Instead, it is about releasing the emotional weight that those experiences carry. It is about allowing yourself to remember without reliving, to reflect without being consumed, and to grow without being held back. This is an important distinction, because many people resist the idea of letting go. They fear that if they release the past, they are somehow betraying it. They worry that letting go means they are saying it didn't matter, or that they are losing a part of themselves. But in reality, letting go is not about losing anything. It is about gaining something far more valuable: freedom. Freedom to wake up without the heaviness of yesterday weighing on your chest. Freedom to make decisions based on who you are now, rather than who you were then. Freedom to see yourself not through the lens of your mistakes, but through the lens of your growth. Imagine what your life might feel like without that constant pull backward. Imagine being able to look at your past with understanding instead of regret, with compassion instead of judgment. Imagine carrying your experiences as wisdom rather than as weight. This journey is not about becoming a different person. It is about reconnecting with who you truly are beneath the layers of guilt, regret, and self-doubt. It is about recognizing that your past is something you have experienced, not something you are. There may be moments as you move through this book where things feel uncomfortable. You may encounter thoughts and emotions you have avoided for a long time. This is a natural part of the process. Healing is not always easy, but it is always worthwhile. Each step you take toward understanding and releasing your past is a step toward a lighter, more peaceful version of yourself. As you begin this journey, I invite you to approach it with openness and patience. There is no need to rush. Letting go is not something that happens overnight. It is a gradual process, one that unfolds with awareness, intention, and self-compassion. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need to know exactly how to let go just yet. All you need is a willingness to begin. Because the truth is, no matter how heavy the past may feel, it is not stronger than your ability to heal. It is not greater than your capacity to grow. And it does not have the power to define the rest of your life, unless you allow it to. This is where your journey begins. Not in changing the past, but in changing your relationship with it. Not in erasing what has been, but in freeing yourself from its weight. And as you take this first step, know this: a lighter, freer life is not only possible, it is waiting for you. Chapter 1: Why we hold on. There is a reason the past can feel so hard to release, and it is not because you are weak, broken, or incapable of moving forward. The truth is far more compassionate than that. You hold on because your mind has been trying to protect you. What feels like being stuck is, in many ways, a deeply human attempt to make sense of what has already happened. Think about how often your thoughts drift backward without your permission. A memory surfaces while you are doing something ordinary. A conversation from years ago replays in your mind as if it just happened. A decision you made or didn't make returns with sharp clarity, bringing with it a flood of emotions. It can feel as though your mind is pulling you into the past, even when you are trying your best to stay present. This is not random. Your brain is designed this way. At its core, the human mind is a meaning-making machine. It constantly scans your experiences, searching for patterns, lessons, and explanations. When something significant happens, especially something painful, confusing, or unresolved, your mind holds on to it. It replays it, examines it, and revisits it, hoping to extract understanding or closure. It is trying to answer questions that were never fully resolved in the moment. Why did that happen? What could I have done differently? What does this say about me? How do I make sure this never happens again? These questions do not always have clear answers, but your mind keeps searching anyway. It believes that if it can just figure things out, it can protect you from future pain. In this way, holding on can feel almost necessary. It feels like you are learning, preparing, or staying alert. Letting go, by contrast, can feel risky, as if you are letting your guard down. But there is a hidden cost to this process. What begins as an attempt to understand can turn into a cycle that keeps you stuck. The mind, in its effort to protect, ends up trapping you in the very experiences it is trying to resolve. One of the most powerful forces that keeps you attached to the past is emotional habit. Over time, certain thoughts and feelings become familiar. You get used to revisiting specific memories, interpreting them in certain ways, and responding with the same emotions. Even if those emotions are painful, they become known territory. There is a strange comfort in familiarity, even when it hurts. The mind prefers what it knows over what it doesn't. This is why you might find yourself returning to the same regrets or replaying the same moments, even when you consciously want to move on. It is not because you enjoy the pain, but because your mind has learned this pattern. Breaking this pattern requires awareness, because until you see it clearly, it can feel like reality rather than habit. Another reason you hold on is fear, specifically the fear of repeating the past. When something painful happens, your mind stores it as a warning. It wants to make sure you never experience that same hurt again. So it keeps the memory alive, thinking that constant awareness will prevent future mistakes. If I don't forget this, I won't mess up again. If I keep thinking about it, I'll do better next time. If I stay aware of what went wrong, I'll be safer. This logic makes sense on the surface, but it often leads to the opposite outcome. Instead of learning and moving forward, you become stuck in a loop of overthinking. You begin to doubt your decisions, second-guess yourself, and hesitate to take new opportunities. The past, instead of guiding you, begins to limit you. Fear disguises itself as responsibility. It tells you that holding on is the smart thing to do, that letting go would be careless. But in reality, growth does not come from endlessly reliving your mistakes. It comes from learning the lesson, and then allowing yourself to move forward with that wisdom. There is also an emotional layer that makes letting go difficult. When something matters deeply to you, a relationship, a dream, an opportunity, it leaves a mark. When it doesn't turn out the way you hoped, your attachment to it does not disappear overnight. You hold on not just because of what happened, but because of what it meant to you. You may hold on to a past relationship because it represented love, connection, or a version of yourself you miss. You may hold on to a missed opportunity because it symbolized a future you once believed in. In these cases, letting go can feel like losing something important all over again. But what you are really holding on to is not the past itself. You are holding on to the meaning you gave it. This is why letting go can feel so emotional. It is not just about releasing events, it is about releasing the identity, the expectations, and the possibilities tied to those events. It requires you to accept that things did not unfold the way you wanted, and that can be painful. Yet within that pain lies the possibility of freedom. There is also a subtle illusion that keeps you attached, the belief that holding on somehow keeps the past alive or gives you control over it. You might feel that by replaying a memory, you are keeping it close, honoring it, or maintaining a connection to it. Or you might believe that by analyzing it enough, you can somehow change it, at least in your mind. But no matter how many times you revisit the past, it remains unchanged. What changes is your experience of it in the present. And when that experience is dominated by regret, guilt, or longing, It takes something from you every time. The past does not need you to hold on to it. It has already happened. It exists as part of your story, whether you revisit it or not. The question is not whether the past stays, it always will in some form, but whether it continues to weigh you down. Understanding this is a turning point. Because once you realize that holding on does not protect you, fix anything, or change what has happened, you can begin to see it for what it is, a pattern that no longer serves you. And patterns can be changed. This is one of the most important truths you can take from this chapter. Your attachment to the past is not a permanent part of who you are. It is something you have learned, often without realizing it. It developed over time, shaped by your experiences, your beliefs, and the way your mind has tried to cope. What has been learned can also be unlearned. This does not mean the process will be instant or effortless. Letting go is not about forcing yourself to forget or suppress your feelings. It is about gently shifting your relationship with your thoughts, your memories, and your emotions. It is about recognizing when your mind is pulling you backward, and choosing little by little to bring your focus back to the present. It begins with awareness. When you notice yourself replaying a memory, instead of judging yourself, pause and ask, what is my mind trying to do right now? Is it trying to protect me? Is it searching for answers? Is it reacting out of habit? This simple shift from being caught in the thought to observing it creates space. And in that space, you gain a choice. You can acknowledge the thought without letting it consume you. You can recognize the emotion without becoming defined by it. You can learn from the past without living in it. This is where your power lies. You are not powerless against your thoughts, even when they feel overwhelming. You have the ability to respond differently, to create new patterns, and to gradually loosen the grip the past has on you. As you continue this journey, remember this: holding on is not your fault, but letting go is your responsibility. Not in a way that blames you, but in a way that empowers you. Because it means you have the ability to change your experience, to lighten your emotional load, and to move forward with greater freedom. You do not need to carry everything that has happened to you. You do not need to relive every mistake or hold on to every regret. You are allowed to learn, to grow, and to move on. The past may have shaped you, but it does not have to confine you. And as you begin to understand why you have been holding on, you take the first real step toward releasing that weight, not by force but by choice. Chapter 2: The Hidden Cost of Regret. Regret is one of the quietest emotions you can carry, yet it is also one of the heaviest. It does not always announce itself loudly. It does not always demand attention in obvious ways. Instead, it lingers beneath the surface, shaping your thoughts, influencing your decisions, and quietly draining your energy without you even realizing it. At first, regret can feel useful. It gives you the sense that you are learning from your past, that you are reflecting, growing, and becoming more aware. It tells you that you care, that you have standards, that you want to do better. In small doses, regret can indeed serve a purpose. It can highlight what matters to you, and guide you toward making different choices in the future. But regret rarely stays small. When it becomes something you revisit again and again, it begins to take on a different role in your life. It stops being a teacher and becomes a weight. It stops helping you grow and starts holding you back. What once felt like reflection slowly turns into rumination, and without noticing it, you begin to live more in what has already happened than in what is happening now. The hidden cost of regret is not just emotional discomfort. It is the way it quietly reshapes your entire experience of life. One of the first things regret takes from you is your energy. Every time you replay a past mistake in your mind, you are investing emotional energy into something that cannot be changed. You revisit conversations, decisions, and moments, imagining different outcomes, different words, different actions. You try to rewrite what has already been written. But no matter how many times you go over it, the outcome remains the same. What changes is you. You become tired. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Your mind is constantly working, constantly analyzing, constantly searching for answers that may never come. It becomes difficult to feel fully present, because part of your attention is always tied to the past. This exhaustion is subtle, but it accumulates over time. It shows up in your lack of focus, your decreased motivation, your inability to fully enjoy the present moment. You may find yourself feeling drained without understanding why, unaware that so much of your energy is being spent on something that no longer exists. Regret also fuels anxiety in a powerful way. When you dwell on past mistakes, your mind begins to use them as evidence. It tells you that because something went wrong before, it could go wrong again. It creates a sense of fear around future decisions, making you question yourself more than you need to. What if I make the same mistake again? What if I choose wrong again? What if I regret this too? These questions can become constant companions, making even simple decisions feel overwhelming. You begin to second-guess yourself, hesitating where you once might have acted with confidence. Opportunities feel riskier, choices feel heavier, and the fear of future regret becomes a barrier that prevents you from moving forward. In this way, regret does something particularly damaging. It takes a past experience and projects it into your future, convincing you that what happened before will define what happens next. But this is not the truth. It is a distortion. Your past does not have the power to dictate your future unless you allow it to. Yet regret can make that distortion feel real. It can make you believe that you are the same person you were then, with the same knowledge, the same limitations, and the same circumstances. What regret does not acknowledge is growth. It does not account for everything you have learned, everything you have experienced, and everything you have become since that moment. It freezes you in time, holding you to a version of yourself that no longer exists. This is one of its greatest costs. When you believe that your past defines you, you begin to limit yourself. You stop seeing possibilities. You stop taking chances. You begin to operate within a smaller version of your life, one that feels safer but also more restricted. You may avoid certain situations because they remind you of past mistakes. You may hold back in relationships because of previous hurt. You may hesitate to pursue opportunities because you fear repeating what went wrong before. In doing so, you unknowingly allow regret to shape your future, not because it has the power to do so, but because you have given it that power. There is also a deeper emotional cost that regret carries, one that often goes unnoticed. It affects the way you see yourself. When you repeatedly focus on what you did wrong, you begin to form an identity around it. A mistake becomes more than an action. It becomes a reflection of who you believe you are. You start to think of yourself as someone who messes things up, someone who makes bad decisions, someone who is not capable of getting it right. This shift is subtle, but it is powerful. Instead of seeing your past as something you experienced, you begin to see it as something you are. And once that belief takes hold, it influences everything. It affects your confidence, your self-worth, and your willingness to step into new opportunities. You may not say it out loud, but somewhere within you, there is a quiet belief that you are defined by your past. This is where regret becomes more than a memory. It becomes a limitation. But here is the truth you need to hear, perhaps more than anything else in this chapter: you are not your mistakes. You are not the worst thing you have done. You are not the opportunity you missed. You are not the decision you wish you could change. You are a human being who has lived, learned and grown through experience. Every person who has ever moved forward in life has done so carrying some form of regret. The difference is not that they have no regrets, but that they have learned not to let those regrets define them. This is the shift you are being invited to make. Not to deny your past, not to ignore your mistakes, but to change the role they play in your life. To move from being controlled by regret to learning from it. To move from being defined by your past to being shaped by your growth. Awareness is the first step in this process. When you begin to see the true cost of regret, it becomes harder to justify holding on to it. You start to recognize how much it is taking from you, your energy, your peace, your confidence, your ability to fully engage with the present. And with that awareness comes a question: is it worth it? Is it worth reliving the same moment again and again, knowing it will not change? Is it worth carrying the weight of something that no longer exists? Is it worth allowing your past to limit your future? The answer, when you see it clearly, becomes obvious. Letting go is not just something you can do. It is something you need to do if you want to live fully. This does not mean that the process will be easy. Regret can feel deeply ingrained, especially if it has been part of your thought patterns for a long time. But the moment you begin to question it, to challenge it, to see it for what it is, you begin to loosen its grip. You can start small. When a regretful thought arises, instead of diving into it, pause. Notice it. Acknowledge it. Then gently remind yourself that the past cannot be changed, but the present is still yours. You can begin to shift your focus from what went wrong to what you have learned. You can ask yourself not just what you would do differently, but what this experience has taught you about yourself, about others, about life. In doing so, you transform regret from something that weighs you down into something that lifts you forward. This is where its power changes. Because the same experience that once held you back can become a source of strength if you allow it. The same mistake that once defined you can become a lesson that guides you. The same regret that once drained your energy can become a reminder of how far you have come. You are not meant to carry regret forever. You are meant to outgrow it. And as you begin to see the hidden cost of holding on, you also begin to see the value of letting go. Not as a distant idea, but as a necessary step toward a life that feels lighter, freer, and more aligned with who you truly are. You deserve that life. Not someday, not when everything is perfect, but now. And it begins with a simple but powerful realization: the past has already taken enough from you. It does not need to take your future too. Chapter 3: Understanding Guilt versus Shame. There are emotions that visit your life briefly, and then there are emotions that settle in quietly and begin to shape how you see yourself. Guilt and shame belong to the second group. They are powerful, deeply human experiences that often go unnoticed in their full impact, yet they influence your thoughts, your choices, and your sense of worth in profound ways. At first glance, guilt and shame can feel almost identical. They both arise from moments you wish had gone differently. They both carry discomfort, heaviness, and a desire to turn back time. They both can make you replay past events and question yourself over and over again. Because of this, many people treat them as the same emotion. But they are not the same. And understanding the difference between them may be one of the most important steps you take on your journey of letting go. Guilt is connected to what you did. Shame is connected to who you believe you are. Guilt says, "I made a mistake." Shame says, "I am the mistake." This distinction may seem subtle at first, but its impact is enormous. One allows room for growth. The other traps you in self-judgment. Guilt, in its healthy form, is actually a constructive emotion. It arises when your actions do not align with your values. It signals that something you did does not sit right with you, that you wish you had acted differently. In this way, guilt can serve as a guide. It can help you reflect, take responsibility, and make changes moving forward. When you feel guilt, it means you care. It means you have a sense of right and wrong. It means you are capable of empathy and awareness. These are not weaknesses. They are strengths. Guilt can lead to growth because it focuses on behavior. It allows you to say, I did something wrong and I can learn from it. It leaves space for change, for repair, and for moving forward. Shame, on the other hand, goes much deeper. It does not stop at the action. It moves inward and attaches itself to your identity. It tells you that your mistake is not something you did, but something you are. When shame takes hold, the narrative shifts. It is no longer about a single moment or decision. It becomes a statement about your worth. You begin to believe that you are flawed, not just in your actions but in your very being. This is where the weight becomes heavier. Because while actions can be changed, identity feels fixed. When you are caught in guilt, you might think, I wish I had handled that differently. When you are caught in shame, you might think, this is who I am. I always get things wrong. Do you see the difference? One opens the door to growth. The other closes it. Shame has a way of keeping you stuck in the past because it convinces you that there is no way forward. It tells you that change is not possible, that improvement is not enough, that no matter what you do, you cannot escape what you believe yourself to be. It is not just an emotion. It becomes a belief system. And once that belief system takes hold, it begins to influence everything. You may start to withdraw from opportunities because you do not feel worthy of success. You may struggle in relationships because you carry a deep fear of being truly seen. You may avoid taking risks because you believe failure would only confirm what you already think about yourself. Shame does not just keep you tied to the past. It shapes how you live in the present and how you approach the future. But here is the truth you need to hear, and perhaps it is something you have not allowed yourself to fully believe. Shame is not truth. It is a story. It is a story built from moments that hurt, from mistakes that felt significant, from experiences that left an emotional mark. It is a story your mind created in an attempt to make sense of those experiences. But a story, no matter how convincing, is not the same as reality. You are not defined by your worst moments. You are not reduced to a single decision, a single mistake, or a single chapter of your life. You are far more complex, far more capable, and far more worthy than shame would have you believe. Understanding this is the beginning of breaking free. It is also important to recognize that shame often thrives in silence. It grows stronger when it is unexamined, when it remains hidden beneath the surface of your awareness. You may not always consciously think, I am not enough, but that belief can still influence your actions and your emotions. It can show up as self-doubt, as perfectionism, as a constant need to prove yourself. It can appear as a fear of failure or a reluctance to step outside your comfort zone. It can even disguise itself as humility, convincing you to shrink yourself rather than risk being seen. But beneath all of this is the same core belief, that something about you is fundamentally flawed. This is why simply trying to move on is not enough. If shame is left unaddressed, it will continue to shape your experience, even if you are not consciously aware of it. Healing requires something different. It requires compassion. This may feel counterintuitive at first. When you have made a mistake or experienced regret, your instinct may be to criticize yourself, to hold yourself accountable through harsh judgment, to believe that self-punishment is necessary for growth. But this approach does not lead to healing. It leads to more shame. You cannot shame yourself into becoming better. You cannot punish yourself into peace. You cannot hate yourself into healing. What you need instead is the very thing you may have been withholding from yourself, understanding, patience, and kindness. Self-compassion does not mean ignoring your mistakes or avoiding responsibility. It means acknowledging what happened without attaching it to your worth. It means recognizing that you are human, that you are capable of error, and that those errors do not define you. It means speaking to yourself the way you would speak to someone you care about. Imagine someone you love came to you with the same regret you carry. Would you tell them that they are a failure? Would you reduce them to their mistake? Or would you remind them that they are more than what happened, that they can learn and grow, that they deserve to move forward? The compassion you would offer to someone else is the same compassion you deserve to give yourself. This is not always easy. If you have spent a long time operating from a place of shame, self-compassion can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. You may feel like you do not deserve it, like you need to earn it somehow. But compassion is not something you earn. It is something you choose. And it is one of the most powerful tools you have in letting go of the past. When you begin to approach yourself with compassion, something shifts. The harsh inner voice softens. The weight of shame begins to lift. You start to see your experiences differently, not as evidence of your inadequacy, but as part of your growth. You begin to move from "I am broken" to "I am learning." This shift changes everything. Because once you no longer see yourself as the problem, you can begin to focus on solutions. You can take responsibility without carrying unnecessary weight. You can learn from your past without being defined by it. This is where true healing begins. It is not in denying your emotions or pretending everything is fine. It is in understanding them, in recognizing the difference between guilt and shame, and in choosing to respond in a way that supports your growth rather than limits it. Guilt can guide you. Shame can trap you. Your goal is not to eliminate guilt entirely, but to transform it into something constructive. To let it teach you, then release it. To take the lesson without carrying the burden. And when it comes to shame, your goal is to challenge it. To question the stories it tells you. To remind yourself that you are not defined by your past. You are defined by your capacity to grow, to change, and to move forward. As you continue this journey, hold on to this truth: you are not your mistakes. You are not your regrets. You are not the voice of shame in your mind. You are the person who is learning to rise beyond them. And that in itself is something to be proud of. Chapter 4: The Stories We Tell Ourselves. There is something powerful happening inside your mind every single day, something so constant and familiar that you may not even notice it. It is the quiet voice that narrates your experiences, interprets your past, and gives meaning to what has happened in your life. It is the story you tell yourself. This story is not written on paper, but it lives in your thoughts. It shapes how you see your past, how you experience your present, and how you imagine your future. It influences your confidence, your decisions, and your sense of what is possible for you. And here is what makes it so important: this story is not always true. It may feel true. It may sound convincing. It may even feel like an undeniable fact. But in many cases, it is not an objective account of what happened. It is an interpretation, shaped by emotion, perspective, and the way your mind has tried to make sense of your experiences. When something painful or disappointing happens, your mind does not simply store the event. It creates a narrative around it. It asks questions, fills in gaps, and draws conclusions. Over time, these conclusions solidify into beliefs, and those beliefs become the lens through which you view your life. You may have experienced this without realizing it. A relationship ends and the story becomes, "I'm not good enough." An opportunity is missed, and the story becomes, "I ruined everything." A mistake is made, and the story becomes, "I always mess things up." A chance passes by, and the story becomes, "That was my only shot." These stories feel real because they are repeated. The more you think them, the more familiar they become. The more familiar they become, the more they feel like truth. But repetition does not equal accuracy. What you are often telling yourself is not the full story. It is a version of the story, one that is incomplete, filtered, and influenced by emotion. The mind has a natural tendency to focus on what went wrong. It zooms in on mistakes, highlights missed opportunities, and magnifies moments of failure. At the same time, it often overlooks context, ignores growth, and dismisses the factors that were beyond your control. This creates a distorted narrative. Imagine looking at a single scene from a movie and deciding that it represents the entire story. Without context, without understanding what came before or after, your interpretation would be limited. You might draw conclusions that do not reflect the full picture. This is what often happens with the stories you tell yourself. You take a moment, a decision, a mistake, a missed chance, and you build an entire narrative around it. You treat it as definitive, as if it captures everything there is to know about you and your life. But your life is not a single moment. It is a collection of experiences, choices, and changes. It is complex, evolving, and far too expansive to be defined by one chapter. Yet when you hold on to a painful story, it can begin to shape everything. If you believe you ruined everything, you may carry a sense of hopelessness into your present. You may feel like there is no point in trying, because the damage has already been done. This belief can influence your actions, your motivation, and your willingness to move forward. If you believe you missed your only chance, you may close yourself off to new opportunities. You may assume that what has passed cannot be replaced, that what you lost was unique and irreplaceable. This belief can keep you stuck, waiting for something that is no longer there. If you believe, "This is just who I am," you may stop believing in your ability to change. You may see your past as proof of your limitations, rather than as a foundation for growth. These stories are powerful not because they are true, but because you believe them. And when you believe them, they shape your reality. But here is where something shifts. The moment you begin to question these stories, you create space for something new. You begin to realize that the story you have been telling yourself is not the only possible interpretation. It is just one version, shaped by a particular perspective. What if there is another way to see it? What if the moment you thought ruined everything was actually a turning point? What if the opportunity you missed was not your only chance, but simply one path among many? What if the mistake you made was not a reflection of your identity, but a step in your growth? This is the power of reframing. Reframing does not mean denying what happened. It does not mean pretending that everything was perfect, or that nothing hurt. It means choosing to look at your experiences from a broader, more balanced perspective. It means asking yourself different questions. Instead of asking, "Why did I mess this up?" you might ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of thinking, "I missed my chance," you might consider, "What new opportunities could still be ahead of me?" Instead of concluding, "This defines me," you might remind yourself, "This is something I experienced, not something I am." These shifts may seem small, but they are powerful. They change the emotional weight of your experiences. They move you from feeling trapped to feeling empowered. They open up possibilities that were previously hidden by the narrowness of your original story. It is also important to recognize that your mind tends to create stories that align with your fears. If you fear failure, your mind will highlight moments that reinforce that fear. If you fear not being enough, your mind will focus on experiences that seem to confirm that belief. This does not mean those fears are accurate. It means your mind is selective. It chooses what to emphasize and what to ignore. By becoming aware of this, you gain the ability to challenge it. You can begin to ask yourself whether the story you are telling is complete. You can look for the parts that are missing, the details that were overlooked, the growth that was not acknowledged. You can begin to see your past in a way that is not defined by pain alone. There is another layer to this as well. The stories you tell yourself do not just shape how you see the past. They influence how you approach the future. If your internal narrative is rooted in limitation, you will approach life with hesitation. If it is rooted in possibility, you will approach life with openness. This is why changing your story is not just about healing the past. It is about creating a different future. You are not rewriting history. You are rewriting your relationship with it. And this is where your power lies. You may not have control over what has already happened, but you have control over how you interpret it. You have control over the meaning you give it. You have control over the story you choose to carry forward. This does not happen all at once. It is a gradual process, one that requires awareness and intention. There will be moments when your old stories resurface, when familiar thoughts return and try to pull you back into the same patterns. When that happens, do not judge yourself. Simply notice it. Recognize the story for what it is, a thought, not a fact. Then gently remind yourself that you have a choice. You can continue telling the same story, or you can begin to tell a new one. A story where your past is not a limitation, but a lesson. A story where your mistakes are not failures, but experiences that shaped your growth. A story where missed opportunities are not endings, but redirections. A story where you are not defined by what happened, but by how you rise from it. This is not about forcing positivity or ignoring reality. It is about seeing the full picture. It is about acknowledging both the pain and the growth, both the challenges and the strength that came from them. It is about telling a story that reflects your resilience, your ability to adapt, and your capacity to move forward. Because you are not the person you were in those moments. You have changed. You have learned. You have grown in ways you may not even fully recognize yet. And your story should reflect that. As you continue this journey, remember that the narrative you carry within you is not fixed. It is something you can shape, something you can refine, something you can transform. You are not bound to the story you have been telling. You have the ability to tell a different one. And that new story can be one of growth, of possibility, and of hope. Not because everything was perfect, but because you chose to see it differently. And sometimes, that choice is the beginning of everything changing. Chapter 5: Making Peace with Missed Opportunities. There is a unique ache that comes with looking back at a path you did not take, a decision you did not make, or a chance you let slip through your fingers. Missed opportunities have a way of lingering in the mind, whispering "what if?" and creating a quiet, persistent grief. They can haunt you not because you failed, but because they represent a door that is now closed, a future that might have been, and a dream that did not materialize. The longing for what could have been is universal, yet it can weigh heavily if left unresolved. From the moment we become aware of our choices, we begin to confront the possibility of what we might miss. Every decision carries the potential for loss as well as gain. Choosing one path often means saying no to another. This is not a flaw or a failure. It is the nature of life. Every choice is a fork in the road, and every fork closes other paths. It is inevitable that we will leave things behind, and the heart's natural response is to grieve those lost possibilities. When we focus too much on missed opportunities, we tend to see them as personal failings. We may say to ourselves, "If only I had acted differently, my life would be better," or "I lost my chance and now it's too late." These statements, though seemingly logical, are traps. They take a single moment out of the vast landscape of life and exaggerate its significance. In reality, life is shaped by countless variables, many of which were beyond your control. The decisions you made were influenced by circumstances, timing, knowledge, and emotions at that moment. To judge yourself harshly for the outcome is to ignore the complexity of life and the wisdom of the choices you made with what you knew at the time. Understanding that life is inherently uncertain is one of the most liberating realizations you can have. The truth is, no matter what path you took or did not take, the future was never guaranteed. Opportunities do not always present themselves in perfect timing. They do not always align with our readiness, our confidence, or our circumstances. By framing missed chances as failures, we discount the fact that life is unpredictable and ever-changing, and that the timing of events is often beyond our control. Part of making peace with missed opportunities is grieving the loss without being trapped in it. Grief is natural. When a chance is lost, it is normal to feel sadness, regret, or disappointment. These emotions are part of being human, and they serve a purpose. They allow you to process what has happened, to acknowledge what you wanted, and to honor the desire that was unfulfilled. The problem arises when grief transforms into fixation. When you dwell on what might have been instead of acknowledging what is, you allow the past to dictate the present and cloud the future. It is also essential to recognize that the paths we do not take are not always better than the ones we do. The imagination has a way of idealizing missed opportunities, creating a narrative in which the other choice would have led to a perfect life. This is rarely the case. Every choice comes with challenges, uncertainties, and potential regrets. The human mind tends to focus on the positive outcomes that might have occurred and overlook the difficulties that likely would have accompanied them. This is not meant to dismiss your feelings, but to provide perspective. What feels like a perfect missed chance may have had hidden struggles you cannot see from where you stand today. Acceptance is a crucial step in making peace. Accepting that you cannot change the past does not mean you are giving up or that you are settling. It means you are acknowledging reality, embracing life's complexity, and freeing yourself from the illusion of control. When you accept that some opportunities will always remain beyond reach, you stop punishing yourself for what is unavoidable. Acceptance allows you to release the grip of regret and to redirect your energy toward what is possible now. It is also important to understand that life continues to offer opportunities, even after a loss. Sometimes the opportunity you missed is replaced by another one that is different, but equally meaningful. Other times the loss itself leads you to unexpected growth, insight, or resilience. Every closed door carries with it a lesson, a perspective, or a skill that shapes who you become. In this way, missed opportunities can be reframed not as failures, but as part of the intricate web of experiences that contribute to your journey. The stories we tell ourselves about missed opportunities often exaggerate permanence. We may say, "I will never get a chance like that again," or "that door has closed forever." These thoughts reinforce the weight of loss and limit our perception of the future. By questioning these narratives, we begin to see that life is fluid, full of possibilities, and that one missed opportunity does not define the entirety of your potential. Change is always possible, and new paths will appear if you remain open to them. Compassion for yourself is also essential in this process. People often judge themselves harshly for missed chances, forgetting that they made the best decisions they could with the knowledge and resources they had at the time. You acted with intention, with the best of your abilities, and with your heart aligned as it was in that moment. To berate yourself now is to ignore your courage, your effort, and your humanity. By treating yourself with kindness, you allow space for healing and for a renewed perspective on your life. Part of making peace also involves examining what you have learned from the missed opportunity. Every choice, even those we wish we had made differently, carries lessons. Perhaps a lost chance taught you something about your priorities, your values, your strengths, or your limitations. Perhaps it revealed patterns in your behavior, or insights about what truly matters to you. By looking for the wisdom in the loss, you transform what could have been a source of regret into a foundation for growth. Another step toward peace is focusing on the present and future, rather than the past. You cannot change what has already occurred, but you can influence what comes next. By redirecting your attention to the opportunities available today, you empower yourself to act, to create, and to live fully. The energy spent longing for the paths you did not take can instead fuel the paths you are about to take. It is also important to acknowledge that making peace does not mean you will never feel the pain of a missed opportunity again. You may encounter reminders, triggers, or reflections that bring the ache back. This is normal. Making peace is not about eliminating the feeling entirely, it is about changing your relationship with it. You learn to feel the emotion without being consumed by it, to acknowledge the loss without letting it control your life, and to move forward with awareness and strength. The truth is that life is rarely linear. Opportunities come, go, and evolve in ways we cannot predict. One missed chance may lead to another, one setback may pave the way for something better, one closed door may redirect you toward your true path. By cultivating patience and openness, you allow life to unfold, rather than trying to hold on to what cannot be held. Grieving missed opportunities also connects deeply with the concept of imperfection. Life is not perfect, and our decisions are not flawless. Accepting imperfection means recognizing that some things will not go as planned, some chances will be lost, and some dreams will remain unfulfilled. Yet this does not diminish your worth or the value of your journey. It is precisely because life is imperfect that every moment, every choice, and every experience carries significance. Learning to embrace imperfection allows you to release the pressure of what could have been and appreciate what is. In the end, making peace with missed opportunities is an act of self-liberation. It is a choice to release the grip of regret, to honor the path you did take, and to move forward with intention. It is about understanding that life is a vast web of possibilities, shaped by countless variables, and that no single choice defines your entire journey. It is about learning to trust yourself, to trust life, and to trust that what is meant for you will unfold in its own time. Every missed opportunity carries a message. Life continues. The future is not set in stone. Your potential is not limited by what has passed. By embracing this truth, you transform the ache of loss into the energy for growth. You begin to see that each experience, each decision, and even each missed chance is part of the mosaic that makes you who you are. You are not diminished by what you did not do. You are enriched by all that you have experienced, learned, and survived. Making peace with missed opportunities is not a one-time act. It is a continuous process of reflection, acceptance, and reframing. It requires courage, compassion, and patience. It asks you to grieve when necessary, to learn when possible, and to release when it is time. And in doing so, you reclaim your power. You reclaim your freedom. You reclaim your ability to live fully, without being weighed down by doors that have already closed. As you move through this journey, remember that the past is a teacher, not a jailer. The opportunities you missed do not define you, they guide you. They reveal your values, illuminate your desires, and show you where you want to go next. By embracing life's uncertainty and your own imperfection, you allow yourself to live more fully, act more courageously, and step into the future with hope and clarity. The paths you did not take will always be a part of your story, but they do not have to be the parts that hold you back. You can honor them, learn from them, and then let them go, carrying forward only the wisdom, resilience, and lessons that will serve you best. In this way, life becomes not a series of missed chances but a continuous journey of growth, self-discovery, and possibility. Chapter 6: Forgiving Yourself. Forgiveness is often spoken of as a gift you give to others, an act of generosity towards someone who has hurt you, deceived you, or disappointed you. We are encouraged to forgive others so that we can release anger, resentment, and bitterness. Yet there is another form of forgiveness that is just as vital, perhaps even more so, and it is the kind that often feels impossible: forgiving yourself. Self-forgiveness is one of the deepest and most challenging acts of healing. For many people, it is easier to offer mercy to a stranger, a friend, or even an enemy, than to extend that same grace inward. The mind is quick to catalogue every failure, every mistake, and every regret, whispering again and again, "You should have done better," or "You don't deserve this." Those whispers are heavy, they are relentless, they can feel like truth. And because they are repeated over and over, they come to shape how we see ourselves, often obscuring the reality that we are human beings navigating an imperfect world. To forgive yourself, you must first acknowledge the pain that you carry. Many of us avoid looking directly at our past actions because the weight of our own judgment is so intense. We feel shame, guilt, and self-condemnation, and we respond by trying to bury the memory or distract ourselves from it. But true healing begins with awareness. You cannot release what you do not acknowledge. You cannot transform what you refuse to face. Acknowledgement does not mean excusing behavior, ignoring consequences, or pretending nothing went wrong. It means recognizing honestly what happened, how your actions or inactions affected yourself or others, and taking responsibility. This is a critical step because without it, forgiveness risks becoming superficial or hollow. Genuine self-forgiveness begins with truth. You look at your past with clarity, admitting to yourself what you did and how it shaped the moment, the outcome, and the person you became afterward. Yet acknowledging mistakes is often not enough, because the mind adds an extra layer of suffering, judgment. Once the act is identified, the inner critic steps in with its relentless commentary. It tells you that your mistake defines you. It tells you that you are irredeemable. It tells you that no amount of apology, learning, or change can restore what was lost. It tells you, in essence, that you do not deserve forgiveness. And this is the part of self-forgiveness that makes it so challenging. We are often the harshest judges of our own actions. The truth is that you do deserve forgiveness. You are not beyond redemption. You are not irreparably flawed. The mistakes you have made are not the sum total of your being. They are experiences from which you can learn, grow, and evolve. Human beings are inherently imperfect, and mistakes are not only inevitable, they are essential. Each misstep carries insight, each failure carries wisdom, and each regret carries a chance to understand yourself more deeply. Forgiving yourself requires compassion, and compassion requires patience. It is a process, not a single moment or declaration. You do not simply wake up one morning and decide, "I forgive myself," and then all the pain vanishes. Forgiveness is a deliberate practice of returning to yourself over and over again with kindness, curiosity, and understanding. It is choosing to see yourself as you would a loved one, someone who has erred, who has experienced regret, who has acted with less knowledge or awareness than they now possess. The first step in practicing self-compassion is reframing your relationship with your past. Instead of viewing your mistakes as evidence that you are unworthy, see them as evidence that you are learning. Instead of interpreting failure as a reflection of who you are, recognize it as a reflection of what you have not yet mastered, of what life is teaching you. By shifting your perspective in this way, you gradually replace judgment with understanding. Another critical element of self-forgiveness is taking responsibility. It is not enough to simply tell yourself that you are allowed to forgive. You must confront your actions, understand their impact, and where necessary, make amends. Taking responsibility is empowering because it shifts you from a passive victim of your own choices to an active participant in your own healing. It allows you to recognize that you can learn, improve, and prevent repeating the same patterns in the future. Accountability and forgiveness are not opposites, they work together. Forgiveness without responsibility risks denial, responsibility without forgiveness risks despair. True self-forgiveness integrates both. It is also important to understand why forgiving yourself feels so hard. Often, it is because we have internalized the belief that we must earn love, worthiness, or acceptance through perfection. Mistakes then become proof that we are unworthy. This mindset creates a cycle of punishment. The more we fail, the more we feel we deserve suffering, which only deepens the pain and delays healing. Breaking free of this cycle requires recognizing that your worth is inherent. You do not need to be flawless to deserve kindness, especially your own. The emotional process of self-forgiveness often begins with naming your feelings. Shame, guilt, fear, and grief are common companions when confronting past mistakes. Allow yourself to feel these emotions fully, without judgment or suppression. Resistance only prolongs their power. By acknowledging your emotions, you create space for them to be processed, understood, and eventually released. Feeling your feelings is not weakness, it is courage. It is proof that you are willing to face yourself honestly and fully. From there, practice speaking to yourself with compassion. This might feel awkward, or even uncomfortable at first, because it is not a habit many of us have been taught. But the way you speak to yourself matters. The inner dialogue shapes your emotional experience, reinforcing either self-condemnation or self-acceptance. Begin by reminding yourself that mistakes are part of being human, that you acted with the knowledge and capacity you had at the time, and that you are capable of growth. Replace self-criticism with self-kindness, and observe how it softens the weight of guilt. Visualization can also be a helpful tool. Picture yourself as someone you deeply care about, a child, a friend, or a younger version of yourself who made the choices you now regret. Imagine holding that person with understanding, empathy, and patience. Imagine reassuring them that they are not defined by their mistakes, that they are worthy of love, and that they can continue moving forward. By extending compassion outward in this way, you begin to internalize it for yourself. Forgiveness also requires releasing the illusion that punishment will bring restoration. Many people unconsciously believe that self-punishment is necessary to balance the scales of justice, that enduring suffering somehow rectifies the wrong. But this is not true. No amount of self-criticism can undo what has happened. In fact, punishment only prolongs suffering and limits growth. Forgiveness, on the other hand, frees you to learn from the past and take positive action in the present. It releases you from the chains of self-condemnation and opens space for renewal. Part of forgiving yourself also involves understanding the context of your actions. Reflect on what you knew, how you felt, and what circumstances influenced your decisions at the time. Recognize that human behavior is rarely black and white, it exists in shades of complexity. By considering the broader picture, you reduce the power of the inner critic and gain a more balanced, compassionate perspective. It is also crucial to acknowledge that self-forgiveness is ongoing. There will be days when the past resurfaces, and the old voice of judgment returns. This is natural. Healing is not linear. The key is not to eliminate these thoughts entirely, but to respond to them differently. Each time you choose compassion over punishment, each time you return to self-kindness rather than self-criticism, you strengthen the muscle of forgiveness. Over time, it becomes a natural part of how you relate to yourself. Self-forgiveness is transformative because it reconnects you to your inherent worth. It shifts your focus from punishment to growth, from self-blame to self-awareness, and from despair to possibility. It allows you to engage with life fully, without being shackled by regret or guilt. When you forgive yourself, you reclaim the energy that was bound up in self-judgment and redirect it toward living, creating, and growing. Finally, it is important to understand that forgiving yourself is not a one-time achievement. It is a lifelong practice. Every time you make a mistake or fall short, you have the opportunity to return to forgiveness, to embrace compassion, and to reaffirm your worth. The journey of self-forgiveness is continuous, and its rewards are profound: peace of mind, emotional freedom, and a deeper, more resilient sense of self. Remember this: the person you are today is not defined by the choices you regret. You are defined by your courage to face those choices, your willingness to learn from them, and your commitment to treat yourself with the compassion you have always deserved. Forgiveness is not forgetting, nor is it excusing. It is a radical act of love toward yourself, a declaration that you are enough just as you are, despite your imperfections. The act of self-forgiveness is a profound turning point on the path to letting go. It transforms guilt from a burden into a teacher, reshapes shame into awareness, and frees the heart from the weight of self-condemnation. It is the bridge between the pain of the past and the promise of the future. And when you step onto that bridge, you step into a life that is lighter, freer, and filled with possibility. By choosing forgiveness, you reclaim your power. By choosing compassion, you honor your humanity. By choosing to release judgment, you open the door to transformation. And in that space, you discover what it truly means to heal, not by erasing your past, but by embracing yourself fully, completely, and without reservation. Chapter 7: Letting Go is Not Forgetting. There is a pervasive myth that has caused countless people to struggle unnecessarily with their past: the belief that letting go means forgetting. That to truly heal, you must erase the memories, bury the emotions, and pretend as though certain chapters of your life never existed. This notion is not only untrue, it is harmful. It creates a false standard, a heavy burden that makes people feel as if healing is impossible unless they can somehow remove the past entirely from their minds. The truth, however, is far more liberating. Letting go does not mean forgetting. Letting go means releasing your emotional attachment to the past, learning to remember without reliving, and reclaiming your present from the weight of old pain. The first thing to understand is that memory is not the enemy. The moments you regret, the mistakes you made, the opportunities you missed, they are part of your life story, and they are part of you. They contain lessons, insights, and truths that can guide you toward a fuller understanding of yourself and the world. To forget them completely would be to discard a part of your personal growth. It would be to deny the experiences that have shaped your resilience, your wisdom, and your capacity to love and act with courage. Letting go, therefore, is not a denial of memory, it is a conscious choice about how you relate to those memories. Consider the difference between carrying a photograph in your hand versus storing it safely in a box. When you carry it constantly, it weighs you down. Its presence dictates your posture, your movements, and your energy. When you place it in a box, it remains accessible, you can view it when you choose, but it no longer dominates your daily life. Letting go functions in a similar way. You do not erase your past, but you stop allowing it to control you, dictate your emotions, or prevent you from moving forward. One of the reasons people struggle with letting go is the fear that remembering is synonymous with suffering. They believe that if they hold on to the memory of a loss, a mistake, or a betrayal, they are doomed to feel pain indefinitely. This is a natural fear, because the mind has a tendency to loop. Without guidance, memories can trigger the same emotional reactions over and over. A failed relationship can become a source of self-recrimination. A lost opportunity can become a reminder of inadequacy. A moment of embarrassment can haunt decades. It feels as though the past is alive, as though it has a grip on your present. But here is a profound truth: the past only has the power you give it. Memories themselves are neutral, they are simply recordings of what occurred. It is the meaning you attach to them, the emotional energy you invest, that keeps them alive in a painful way. Letting go is the act of disentangling your emotions from the memory. It is the deliberate decision to hold the memory lightly, to observe it without allowing it to dictate your current state of mind. Healing, then, involves a radical shift in perspective. It asks you to see that remembering and suffering are not inherently linked. You can recall the past, reflect on your experiences, and even feel sadness or regret without being imprisoned by those feelings. You can look back and acknowledge mistakes, missed chances, and disappointments without letting them define who you are today. You can honor your history while reclaiming your present. This distinction is critical because it opens the door to genuine emotional freedom. When you understand that letting go is about releasing attachment, not erasing memory, you remove the pressure to forget, an impossible standard that only adds guilt and frustration. You begin to see that healing is not about eliminating the past, but about reshaping your relationship with it. It is about moving from "I am trapped in this memory" to "I remember, I learn, and I continue." To let go effectively, you must confront the emotions tied to your memories. Many people attempt to let go by suppression, pushing down thoughts, distracting themselves, or convincing themselves that they should simply move on. While avoidance may provide temporary relief, it does not resolve the underlying attachment. The emotions remain, often growing stronger beneath the surface, waiting for an opportunity to resurface. True letting go requires facing those feelings with courage, acknowledging them without judgment, and permitting yourself to experience them fully. This process begins with acceptance. Accept that your past happened exactly as it did. Accept that you acted with the knowledge, resources, and understanding available to you at the time. Accept that mistakes, losses, and regrets are part of the human experience. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean saying everything was fine. Acceptance simply means recognizing reality, without the added burden of resistance. It is the foundation upon which the work of letting go is built. Once you accept the reality of your past, you can begin to reframe your perspective. Reframing involves consciously changing the meaning you attach to events. A mistake becomes not a permanent mark on your worth, but a lesson learned. A lost opportunity becomes not proof of inadequacy, but insight into your desires and priorities. A painful ending becomes not a failure, but a step toward growth and future resilience. Reframing does not alter history, it alters your experience of it. It allows you to carry your memories with clarity and wisdom, rather than pain and regret. Forgiveness is also an essential component of letting go. Often, the memories we cling to carry an implicit self-condemnation. We remember what we wish we had done differently, and we continue to punish ourselves for choices we cannot change. Forgiving yourself, as explored in the previous chapter, is a way of releasing this self-imposed suffering. Forgiveness allows you to see your past through the lens of humanity rather than judgment. It enables you to say, "I did the best I could with what I knew, and I am worthy of peace." Another vital aspect of letting go is learning to live in the present. Memories are inherently rooted in the past, but your life is unfolding in the now. When you allow the past to dominate your thoughts, it pulls your attention away from what is happening in the moment. You may find yourself anxious, distracted, or emotionally constrained. By consciously bringing your focus back to the present, you create space to experience life fully, to make conscious choices, and to invest in the opportunities and relationships available to you today. It is helpful to understand that letting go does not require perfection. You will not wake up one day completely free of the past. Memories may resurface, old emotions may arise, and moments of longing or regret may appear unexpectedly. This is natural. Letting go is a practice, not a destination. Each time you choose to release attachment rather than resist, each time you allow a memory to exist without controlling you, you reinforce the habit of emotional freedom. Over time, the mind learns that you can hold your past without being consumed by it. Mindfulness is a practical tool in this process. By observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment, you create a space between memory and reaction. You notice the thought, acknowledge the feeling, and remind yourself that the present is separate from the past. Mindfulness allows you to experience the memory without being trapped by it, to hold it in awareness rather than in suffering. Letting go is also a form of empowerment. When you release the emotional grip of the past, you reclaim energy, attention, and creativity that were previously tied up in rumination. You gain freedom to pursue goals, nurture relationships, and invest in your growth. The past no longer dictates your choices, instead, it informs them with insight and wisdom. You move from being a prisoner of memory to being a steward of your life. It is important to remember that releasing emotional attachment does not mean you must stop feeling entirely. Emotions are valuable. They are teachers, indicators, and signals of your values and experiences. The goal is not numbness but balance. You allow yourself to feel grief, regret, or sadness without letting them dominate your identity or your future. You honor the lessons embedded in your past while refusing to let the pain dictate your path forward. Carrying lessons instead of pain is perhaps the most profound shift that occurs when we let go. The moments that once caused suffering can become sources of guidance, wisdom, and strength. Every mistake teaches humility, resilience, or insight. Every heartbreak teaches empathy, self-awareness, and clarity. Every lost opportunity teaches discernment, patience, and the importance of timing. By extracting the lessons, you transform memory from a weight into a resource, a guide for the life you are living now. Finally, let go with gratitude. Gratitude does not erase the pain of the past, but it recognizes the value hidden within it. Even difficult experiences contribute to your growth, shape your character, and deepen your understanding of life. By embracing gratitude, you honor your journey, acknowledge your resilience, and cultivate an openness to future possibilities. Gratitude transforms the act of letting go from an end into a bridge connecting your past experiences with the life you are choosing to live today. Letting go is not forgetting. It is remembering without being bound. It is feeling without being consumed. It is learning without being defined. It is holding your history lightly while fully embracing your present. It is transforming what once hurt you into a source of wisdom and strength. When you internalize this truth, the weight of your past begins to lift. You realize that the moments you once feared, the mistakes you once regretted, and the opportunities you once lost do not control your life unless you allow them to. They are part of your story, yes, but they are not the sum of your story. You are far more than any single chapter, any single choice, any single memory. The act of letting go allows you to live fully, to love freely, and to embrace possibility. You carry your past with dignity and awareness, not burden and regret. You honor your experiences, learn their lessons, and step forward lighter, wiser, and stronger. And in this space, the past becomes a guide rather than a cage. It becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. It becomes a story you remember without being defined by, a story that enriches your life rather than diminishes it. Letting go is not forgetting. It is freedom. It is grace. It is the quiet, transformative act of reclaiming your life from the hold of yesterday and stepping fully into the promise of today. Chapter 8: Releasing Control and What-Ifs. There is a certain trap almost everyone falls into at some point in life, a trap woven from our desire to understand, to predict and to control. It is the relentless mental loop of what if? What if I had made a different choice? What if I had spoken up, moved away, or taken that risk? What if I had been better, smarter, or braver? These questions are endless, and they feed on the mind's natural need for certainty. They are seductive because they offer the illusion of control. If only we could answer them, if only we could rewrite history, we could finally make sense of everything, and the past would no longer hurt. But what-if thinking is a mirage. It keeps us tethered to events that cannot be changed, and outcomes that are forever fixed. Every imagined alternative feels urgent, as if the right answer exists somewhere in the labyrinth of possibilities, and if only we could find it, we would be free. Yet freedom never comes from chasing what cannot be changed. The mind's attempts to control the uncontrollable trap us in a cycle of rumination, anxiety, and regret. Understanding why we fall into this trap requires a look at human psychology. The brain is wired to seek patterns, to anticipate outcomes, and to prevent mistakes. When something goes wrong or we experience loss, the mind naturally revisits the moment, replaying actions and imagining alternatives. This is an evolutionary mechanism designed to help us learn, survive, and make better choices in the future. But while this mechanism is useful in the present moment, it becomes harmful when applied to the past, because the past is immutable. No amount of replaying, analyzing, or imagining will change what has already occurred. What-if thinking thrives on uncertainty and the illusion of control. It whispers that if we only understood why something happened, or if we could reconstruct events differently, we could restore balance, prevent pain, or secure the outcome we desire. It transforms regret into an obsession, a constant questioning of the self, and a subtle erosion of peace. The more we attempt to control what is unchangeable, the more we give the past power over our present. The first step in releasing this mental loop is awareness. You must recognize when your mind is caught in a cycle of what-ifs. Notice the repetitive thoughts, the persistent replay of moments, the endless questioning of choices. This is not a sign of weakness or failure, it is simply a reflection of the mind's pattern. By observing it without judgment, you create the first crack in the loop, a small space where change becomes possible. Once you recognize these patterns, the next step is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean resignation or indifference. It means acknowledging that the past cannot be rewritten, and that some outcomes are beyond your control. It means recognizing that uncertainty is a natural part of life, and that trying to control it retroactively is a futile endeavor. Acceptance is powerful because it shifts the focus from frustration to clarity, from imagined alternatives to lived reality. It allows you to see your experiences as they are, rather than as you wish they could have been. Another essential step is to cultivate presence. What-if thinking is always about a world that does not exist, a version of events that never occurred. It pulls attention away from what is happening now, and invests energy in a hypothetical reality. By bringing your focus to the present moment, you reclaim that energy and redirect it toward choices, actions, and experiences that matter. Presence is an antidote to rumination. It anchors you in what is real, tangible, and actionable, rather than in the fog of imagined alternatives. Learning to release control also requires self-compassion. The urge to revisit the past is often fueled by self-blame. We ask ourselves, what if I had done better, as if we could have single-handedly orchestrated a perfect outcome. But life is not a controlled experiment, and human agency is never absolute. By treating yourself with kindness and recognizing your humanity, you allow the mind to let go of impossible expectations. Compassion softens the harsh inner voice, and creates space for understanding, growth, and forgiveness. Shifting perspective is also vital. Instead of asking, "What if I had done this differently?" try asking, "What did I learn from this?" or "How can I use this experience to guide me moving forward?" These questions transform the energy of speculation into the energy of empowerment. They move you from dwelling on the uncontrollable past to engaging with the possibilities that are available to you now. Every "what if" has within it a lesson if you choose to focus on it constructively rather than obsessively. It is also helpful to remember that imagined alternatives are incomplete. When we replay events in our minds, we construct versions of reality that are biased and selective. We amplify the positives of paths not taken, and magnify the negatives of the path we did take. We idealize the what-if scenario, assuming that it would have been perfect, when in reality it might have carried its own challenges, mistakes, and regrets. By acknowledging that our mental reconstructions are inherently flawed, we reduce the allure of imagined outcomes and weaken their emotional hold. A powerful practice in releasing what-ifs is reframing. Reframing involves consciously changing the story you tell yourself about the past. Instead of focusing on missed opportunities, mistakes, or regrets, you focus on resilience, growth, and lessons learned. For example, rather than dwelling on "What if I had said yes?" consider, "I said no because it was not right for me at the time, and that choice taught me more about my values." Reframing does not erase the past, it changes your relationship with it. It allows you to remember without suffering, to learn without being chained, and to carry insights instead of pain. Letting go of what-ifs also involves understanding the limits of control. Life is inherently uncertain. No one can predict outcomes perfectly, and no decision comes with guaranteed results. Mistakes are inevitable, outcomes are unpredictable, and opportunities are often influenced by circumstances beyond your influence. Recognizing this truth liberates you from the illusion that you could have engineered a flawless past. It allows you to stop punishing yourself for what you could not control, and to redirect your energy toward what you can influence, the present and the future. Forgiveness, both of yourself and of others, is intertwined with releasing what-ifs. Often, the mental loops of speculation are fueled by resentment, blame, or lingering anger. You imagine alternate realities where someone else acted differently, or where you yourself avoided failure, and you relive the pain over and over. By practicing forgiveness, you release the emotional charge from these memories. You disentangle yourself from the what-if scenarios and create a space where the past exists without dominating your emotional life. It is also valuable to embrace uncertainty as a natural aspect of life. The desire for certainty is strong because it offers safety and control. But life's richness, its growth, and its opportunities often emerge from uncertainty. When you accept that the future is unknowable, you release the need to retroactively control the past. You recognize that each moment, whether imagined or real, is part of the larger flow of life, unpredictable, imperfect, and ultimately meaningful in ways that may not be immediately clear. Mindfulness and meditation are practical tools in this journey. Observing thoughts without judgment allows you to see when what-if thinking arises, and to let it pass without being swept away. Breathing, grounding, and present-focused awareness anchor you in reality rather than in speculation. Each time you practice these skills, you strengthen your ability to release control and return to a state of calm and clarity. The freedom that comes from releasing what-ifs is profound. Suddenly, the past loses its grip. The mind stops replaying alternate scenarios incessantly. Emotional energy that was previously trapped in speculation is now available for creativity, action, and growth. You are no longer a prisoner of what could have been. You are a participant in what can be. It is important to note that releasing what-ifs does not mean you stop learning from your past. Reflection, insight, and understanding are still vital. The key is to separate constructive reflection from obsessive speculation. Reflection asks, "What can I learn?" Obsession asks, "What could I have done differently?" Reflection guides growth, obsession traps you in paralysis. Letting go means choosing reflection over rumination. Finally, releasing what-ifs is an act of courage. It requires acknowledging the discomfort of uncertainty, embracing the imperfection of human choices, and relinquishing the illusion of absolute control. It is a conscious decision to stop reliving the past and to start engaging with life fully. It is the recognition that your energy is too valuable to be spent on scenarios that will never come to pass. It is the affirmation that you deserve peace, presence, and possibility. When you master this practice, you will notice a profound shift. The mind stops looping, the heart stops clinging, and the past loses its tyranny. You remember, you learn, and you move forward, not shackled by what-ifs, but empowered by the lessons of your experiences. You step into life lighter, freer, and more fully alive. Releasing control and what-ifs is not a single moment, it is a journey. Each time you choose presence over speculation, each time you forgive yourself for the mistakes you could not change, each time you redirect your energy toward what is real and actionable, you strengthen your capacity to live fully. The past remains part of your story, but it no longer defines your emotional state. You are no longer a captive of imagined realities. You are the author of the life you are creating today. The act of letting go in this way transforms your inner world. It frees your mind from endless loops, your heart from lingering regret, and your spirit from the weight of control that was never yours to hold. And as you release these chains, you discover something remarkable: peace, clarity, and the infinite possibilities of the present moment. Chapter 9: Rebuilding Your Identity Beyond the Past. For many of us, the past feels like a shadow that follows us everywhere. It shapes our thoughts, guides our fears, and quietly influences our actions. We tell ourselves, "I am the person I was then," as if the person defined by mistakes, failures, and regrets is the person we must always be. We carry old identities like luggage, heavy and constraining, believing that our past defines our worth, our ability, and our future. Yet the truth is profoundly different. Your identity is not fixed, and your past does not have to determine who you are today. You have the power to rebuild yourself, to redefine who you are, and to shape a life that is no longer limited by old narratives. The first step in rebuilding your identity is recognizing that identifying with your past is a learned habit, not an unchangeable fact. Many people adopt identities shaped by failure, shame, or regret simply because they have repeated the stories long enough to believe them. "I am a failure, I am unworthy, I always mess things up." These thoughts become a self-fulfilling prophecy when they are accepted as truth. Yet these identities are constructs, not reality. They are based on selective memories, emotional interpretations, and old beliefs that no longer serve you. Understanding this is liberating. If your current identity is learned, it can be unlearned and rewritten. To redefine yourself, you must first separate who you are from what happened. Mistakes, missed opportunities, and past actions are events. They are not the sum of your being. The error you made in a relationship does not mean you are inherently unlovable. The failure you experienced in your career does not mean you are incapable of success. Each experience is a moment in time, and while it may have consequences, it does not define your intrinsic value. By making this distinction, you create space to explore a new version of yourself, free from the chains of old self-concepts. Reflection is a powerful tool in this process. Take the time to examine the parts of your identity that feel tethered to the past. Which beliefs about yourself are rooted in events that no longer exist? Which narratives do you repeat that limit your potential? Reflection, allows you to identify these patterns and recognize them as separate from your authentic self. You are not your mistakes. You are not your regrets. You are a living, evolving being with capacity, resilience and potential far beyond any single moment in your past. Growth is at the heart of identity reconstruction. When you shift your focus from what went wrong to what you have learned, you begin to see yourself as someone who adapts, overcomes, and evolves. Every challenge you faced, every misstep, every heartbreak has contributed to your growth. They have taught you resilience, empathy, and self-awareness. These qualities are foundational to the person you are becoming. Rebuilding your identity is not about erasing the past. It is about integrating it in a way that strengthens rather than confines you. Resilience is another cornerstone. Life will continue to challenge you, and setbacks are inevitable. When your identity is rooted in growth and adaptability, rather than in perfection or past mistakes, you gain the capacity to navigate difficulties without losing sight of your value. Resilience allows you to respond to life with courage rather than fear, to act with intention rather than hesitation, and to maintain hope even when circumstances are uncertain. It is the strength that emerges from surviving hardship and choosing to rise rather than remain buried under it. Redefining identity also involves intentional self-talk. The narratives you tell yourself shape your reality. When you repeatedly define yourself by your past, you reinforce old patterns and limit your potential. Begin to speak to yourself in ways that reflect the person you are choosing to become. I am capable of growth. I am worthy of love and success. I am resilient and evolving. Over time, these statements cultivate a mindset aligned with your desired identity, transforming thought patterns into lived experience. Action is equally important. Identity is not formed in theory, it is expressed through behavior. When you take deliberate steps that align with your redefined self, you reinforce the identity you are creating. Pursue goals, engage in practices, and surround yourself with people who reflect and support the values you wish to embody. Each action becomes a building block, solidifying the person you are becoming and reinforcing the separation from old limitations. It is natural to encounter resistance when rebuilding your identity. Old habits, fears, and self-judgments will surface, attempting to pull you back into the familiar comfort of past identities. These moments are not failures, they are opportunities to reaffirm your commitment to growth. When old thoughts arise, acknowledge them, understand their origin, and choose to respond in alignment with the person you are becoming. The process of transformation is gradual, and patience is essential. Forgiveness, both of yourself and of others, plays a crucial role in identity reconstruction. Forgiving yourself releases the burden of guilt that can anchor you to old patterns. Forgiving others frees you from resentment that may distort your sense of self. Together, these acts of compassion create the emotional freedom necessary to explore and embody a new identity. They allow you to focus on what is possible rather than what has been, opening the door to transformation. Your values also guide identity reconstruction. Who you are is shaped not only by your experiences, but by the principles and beliefs you choose to live by. Reflect on the qualities you admire in yourself and others: integrity, courage, creativity, empathy. Decide consciously which values you wish to anchor your life around. Aligning your actions with these values reinforces your emerging identity, creating coherence between who you are, what you do, and how you relate to the world. Imagination can be a powerful ally. Visualize the person you wish to become. Picture yourself navigating challenges with confidence, making choices aligned with your values, and living a life free from the constraints of past identities. Visualization strengthens the neural pathways associated with desired behaviors, making them more accessible and realistic. It helps you internalize the version of yourself you are aspiring to be, bridging the gap between present reality and potential. Community and support are also essential. Surrounding yourself with people who see your potential and reflect the qualities you wish to embody reinforces your new identity. Relationships can act as mirrors, showing you the strength, resilience, and growth you may not fully recognize in yourself. Seek out those who encourage, inspire, and challenge you in ways that align with your vision of self. It is important to recognize that rebuilding your identity is not about erasing the past or pretending mistakes did not happen. It is about integration, honoring your experiences, extracting their lessons, and using them to shape a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate self. The past becomes a guide rather than a cage, a source of insight rather than a definition. You are not diminished by what happened, you are enriched by how you have grown through it. Freedom is the ultimate reward of this process. When your identity is no longer defined by the past, you gain the ability to pursue life with clarity, courage, and intention. You are free to make choices based on your present desires and future aspirations, rather than old fears and limitations. You are free to love, create, and live fully, unshackled from the weight of history. Rebuilding your identity is also a form of empowerment. It is a declaration that you are not a prisoner of what has occurred, but an architect of what is possible. It is an assertion that your value is inherent, your potential is vast, and your life is not defined by mistakes but by your willingness to rise, grow, and continue. It is the conscious choice to embrace your humanity, your imperfections, and your resilience as integral parts of who you are. As you continue this journey, remember that identity is fluid, evolving, and expansive. You are not confined to one version of yourself, nor are you limited by past failures. Each day offers an opportunity to act, choose, and live in alignment with the person you are becoming. Every step, every decision, every act of courage reinforces the emerging self, gradually reshaping who you are in a way that honors both your past and your potential. In rebuilding your identity, you discover a profound truth. The past is part of your story, but it is not your identity. You are not your mistakes, your regrets, or your missed opportunities. You are the sum of your choices, your growth, your values, and your capacity to rise above what once held you down. Each day, each moment, offers the chance to step into a self that is freer, wiser, and more fully alive. Ultimately, rebuilding your identity is an act of love for yourself, your journey, and your potential. It is the conscious decision to step out of the shadow of yesterday and into the light of possibility. It is the affirmation that who you were does not dictate who you will become. You are not your past, you are the courage, growth, and resilience you carry forward. You are, and always have the power to be, more than you ever imagined. Chapter 10: Moving Forward Lighter. After journeying through the complexities of regret, guilt, missed opportunities, self-forgiveness, and the reshaping of your identity, you arrive at an essential truth: letting go is not a single moment or act. It is a practice, a series of conscious choices that shape the way you live each day. Moving forward lighter is about integrating all you have learned into your life, so that the weight of the past no longer dictates your present or your future. It is about choosing freedom over fixation, clarity over confusion, and peace over self-judgment. To move forward lighter, you first need to embrace the concept of daily practice. Letting go is not an event, it is an ongoing commitment to yourself. Each day presents opportunities to choose differently, to respond with compassion rather than criticism, to reflect rather than ruminate, to release rather than cling. It is in these small, consistent decisions that real transformation occurs. While the past may continue to surface in thoughts or emotions, how you respond in the present moment determines whether it remains a burden or becomes a source of wisdom. Self-awareness is at the heart of this practice. By observing your thoughts, emotions, and reactions, you create the space to make intentional choices. Awareness allows you to recognize when you are slipping into old patterns, when regret begins to loop, when guilt surfaces, or when what-if scenarios dominate your mind. Awareness is not judgment. It is simply noticing, understanding, and choosing differently. When you cultivate self-awareness, you gain the power to respond to life instead of reacting out of habit or fear. Another cornerstone of moving forward lighter is the cultivation of a growth mindset. Life is a continuous journey of learning, and each challenge, mistake, or setback carries a lesson. When you view experiences as opportunities for growth rather than as indictments of your worth, you transform obstacles into stepping stones. Growth requires patience, courage, and the willingness to confront discomfort without allowing it to define you. It is in embracing this perspective that you move from a mindset of limitation to one of possibility, where the past informs but does not imprison. Daily choices also shape the quality of your emotional life. You may not control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. Choosing to let go of resentment, to forgive yourself and others, and to focus on what you can influence creates freedom. Choosing to engage in activities that nurture your well-being, whether through creativity, physical movement, meditation, or connection with others, reinforces your capacity to live lighter. These choices may seem small, but they compound over time, gradually reshaping your inner world and your relationship with your past. Releasing attachment to outcomes is another critical element. Much of the weight we carry stems from the desire to control what cannot be controlled, the past, other people, or future results. Letting go of this need for control allows you to experience life with greater ease and flexibility. It is the acknowledgement that perfection is an illusion, that uncertainty is natural, and that your worth is not dependent on flawless performance or perfect timing. By releasing attachment, you create space for acceptance, peace, and adaptability. Forgiveness, which has been a theme throughout this book, remains vital in this final stage. Forgiving yourself and others is not a one-time declaration, it is a continual choice. Each time old guilt, shame, or resentment arises, you have the opportunity to release it consciously, to replace self-punishment with compassion, and to remember that you are deserving of peace. Forgiveness frees you from carrying emotional weight unnecessarily, allowing your energy to be invested in growth, connection, and purpose rather than in suffering. Mindfulness is a practical tool that anchors all of these practices. By bringing attention to the present moment, through breath, sensation, or observation, you ground yourself in reality rather than in the past or in imagined futures. Mindfulness reminds you that you are not your mistakes, that the past is over, and that the present is where you have the power to act, choose, and create. Each mindful moment is a chance to move lighter, to release what no longer serves you, and to experience life with clarity and intentionality. Reframing your internal narratives is also essential. The stories you tell yourself about who you are, what has happened, and what you deserve have immense power over your experience. By consciously choosing narratives that reflect growth, resilience, and possibility, you reshape your identity and your emotional life. I am learning and evolving. I am worthy of peace and joy. I carry my past with wisdom, not with burden. These statements reinforce a mindset aligned with freedom rather than fixation. Gratitude acts as a transformative force in moving forward lighter. When you consciously acknowledge what is good in your life, the lessons learned, the relationships nurtured, the opportunities embraced, you shift your focus from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude does not erase the challenges you have faced, but it balances perspective, reminding you that life also contains beauty, growth, and joy. By practicing gratitude, you allow positive energy to coexist with past pain, creating a sense of wholeness and presence. Integration is the final piece of the puzzle. Moving forward lighter does not require ignoring the past or pretending it never happened. It requires integrating your experiences, extracting their lessons, and using them to guide your choices and values. Your past becomes a source of wisdom rather than regret, a teacher rather than a jailer. By consciously weaving your experiences into a narrative of growth and resilience, you honor your journey while freeing yourself from the emotional chains that once held you captive. Connection with others also supports this process. Sharing your journey, your lessons, and your growth with compassionate individuals reinforces your sense of self and your capacity to move forward. Relationships offer mirrors, reflecting your strengths and progress back to you, and remind you that you are not alone in navigating life's complexities. Community provides both grounding and inspiration, fostering a sense of belonging that lightens the burden of isolation often created by past regrets. Embracing imperfection is another vital aspect. Life is unpredictable, and mistakes will continue to happen. Accepting imperfection as a natural part of being human allows you to release the pressure of needing to get everything right, and to experience freedom in the ongoing process of learning. Imperfection does not diminish your worth, it humanizes it, making space for growth, curiosity, and creativity. By acknowledging this, you step into each day with openness rather than fear, curiosity rather than judgment. The journey of moving forward lighter also requires courage. It is not always comfortable to release the familiar weight of old regrets and identities. There is a natural tendency to cling to the known, even when it is painful, because the unknown feels uncertain. Yet courage is the willingness to step into the uncertainty of the present with hope, trust, and faith in your capacity to navigate life. Courage allows you to act in alignment with your values, pursue growth, and engage with life fully, even when the path is not perfectly clear. Reflection and self-inquiry continue to support this practice. Ask yourself regularly, am I carrying something from the past unnecessarily? Am I responding with compassion or criticism? Am I present, or am I lost in imagined outcomes? These questions maintain awareness, guiding you back to intentional living and preventing the slow accumulation of old patterns. Self-inquiry is a compass, directing you toward lighter, freer, and more aligned choices. As you practice these shifts daily, you begin to notice a profound transformation. The past no longer dominates your emotional life. Guilt and regret lose their power. Missed opportunities become lessons rather than chains. What-if thinking loses its grip. Your identity becomes grounded in growth, resilience, and conscious choice rather than in the mistakes of yesterday. You begin to move with clarity, purpose, and an effortless sense of freedom. Ultimately, moving forward lighter is a declaration that you will no longer allow the past to define the quality of your present or your potential. It is a commitment to yourself, to your growth, and to your well-being. It is a recognition that each day, each choice, and each thought matters, and that you have the power to shape them in alignment with the person you wish to become. Letting go is not about perfection. It is not about erasing memory or denying emotion. It is about intentionality, presence, and compassion. It is about choosing daily to release the weight of what no longer serves you, to carry lessons instead of burdens, and to walk into each moment with openness, courage, and gratitude. Moving forward lighter is a lifelong practice, but it is also a deeply rewarding one. With each conscious choice, you reclaim freedom, clarity, and peace. As you close this chapter and prepare to step into the next phase of your life, remember that the journey is ongoing. There will be moments when the past resurfaces, when old emotions arise, and when the mind seeks to pull you backward. These moments are not setbacks, they are invitations to practice what you have learned. Each time you choose presence, compassion and intentionality, you reinforce your freedom and your capacity to move lighter. The final truth is this: your past has shaped you, but it does not define you. Your experiences have given you wisdom, resilience, and depth. Your choices today define who you are becoming. By committing to daily practice, embracing awareness, choosing growth, and cultivating compassion, you step into life lighter, freer, and fully alive. You step into the power of now, carrying only what serves you and releasing what holds you back. Moving forward lighter is your gift to yourself. It is the culmination of reflection, healing, and transformation. It is the conscious choice to live fully, love deeply, and act intentionally. It is the embrace of freedom, clarity, and peace as guiding principles in your life. And it is a declaration that, no matter what has happened, you have the power to walk into your future unburdened, empowered, and whole. Conclusion: a new relationship with your past. As you reach the final pages of this journey, it is time to pause and reflect on the path you have traveled. This book has guided you through the complex landscapes of regret, guilt, shame, missed opportunities, and self-forgiveness. You have explored the stories you tell yourself, the what-ifs that have trapped your mind, and the patterns that have anchored you to the past. You have discovered the distinction between remembering and reliving, between carrying lessons and carrying burdens. Now, in this moment, you are invited to take a step beyond reflection and embrace a new relationship with your past, a relationship grounded in understanding, acceptance, and liberation. Healing, as this journey has emphasized, is not about erasing what has happened or becoming a different person. It is about freeing the person you already are, the resilient, learning, evolving, and capable human being, from the weight of unnecessary emotional baggage. The past has shaped you, yes, but it does not define the totality of your existence. Every mistake, every misstep, every heartbreak and mischance has contributed to the person who reads these words today. They have endowed you with wisdom, perspective, and an inner strength that only comes from navigating the storms of life. Letting go is not about forgetting these experiences. It is about reclaiming your power to carry them lightly, without allowing them to weigh down your present or dictate your future. This new relationship with your past begins with acceptance. Acceptance is not resignation, nor is it a passive surrender. It is the act of acknowledging reality exactly as it was, without adding layers of self-judgment or criticism. It is saying to yourself, "This happened. I experienced it. I learned, I grew, and I continue." By accepting the events of your life as part of your story, you remove the resistance that creates emotional tension. Acceptance allows you to see your history clearly, without distortion, and to release the emotional charge that has kept you tethered to it. It is the first crucial step toward freedom. Alongside acceptance comes forgiveness, most importantly self-forgiveness. For too long many people believe that forgiveness is only for others, that they must grant it outwardly before allowing it inwardly. Yet the healing of the soul begins when you extend compassion to yourself. You have acted with the knowledge, experience, and resources available to you at the time. You have made choices, sometimes imperfect ones, as all humans do. Forgiving yourself for past decisions does not erase consequences, but it removes the unnecessary burden of guilt that clouds your heart and mind. Self-forgiveness is the act of reclaiming your inherent worth and allowing yourself to move forward with dignity and grace. Another pillar of this transformation is perspective. You have learned throughout this book that the past is not a chain, it is a teacher. Every experience, whether joyous or painful, carries within it lessons that can guide your growth. When you view your past through this lens, the weight of regret and self-recrimination begins to lift. You can honor what happened, extract wisdom from it, and integrate it into your life without allowing it to control your identity or choices. The past becomes a compass, not a cage, guiding you toward greater clarity, resilience, and purpose. Releasing attachment to the past also requires embracing uncertainty. Life is inherently unpredictable, and many of the paths we imagine we should have taken exist only in our minds. The what-ifs, the endless looping questions, the desire to retroactively control outcomes, they are all manifestations of the mind attempting to make sense of what cannot be changed. Yet by letting go of the need for control and embracing the unknown, you open the door to freedom. You step into a life where your energy is focused on the present moment, on actions that matter, and on the choices that shape your unfolding story. In this way, uncertainty becomes not a source of fear, but an invitation to growth and possibility. Integration is a key aspect of this new relationship with your past. Integration means allowing your experiences to exist as part of your narrative, without allowing them to dominate it. It is the art of holding memories, lessons, and emotions in balance, so they inform you without restricting you. When integrated, your past becomes a reservoir of insight rather than a source of pain. You carry what serves you, resilience, empathy, wisdom, and courage, and release what does not, regret, shame, and lingering guilt. Integration transforms the past from a heavy weight into a resource that strengthens and guides you. Identity, too, must be redefined in light of this work. You are not the sum of your mistakes, the echo of your regrets, or the shadow of missed opportunities. You are a living, evolving being capable of growth, change, and renewal. Rebuilding your identity beyond the past allows you to act in alignment with your values, embrace your potential, and live with intention. Each conscious choice you make reinforces this emerging self, allowing you to step fully into the life you desire. Your identity is no longer tied to the person you were, it is anchored in the person you are becoming, a person of courage, resilience, and lightness. The practice of moving forward lighter is an ongoing journey, not a finite destination. Some days will be easier than others. Old memories may resurface, old regrets may whisper, and the temptation to revisit the past may return. These moments are not failures, they are opportunities to reinforce the skills and insights you have cultivated. With each moment of awareness, each choice to respond with compassion rather than self-criticism, each decision to focus on the present rather than the past, you strengthen your capacity to move lighter. Healing is a rhythm, a pattern, and a practice, and it flourishes with patience, commitment, and self-kindness. Gratitude serves as a powerful companion on this journey. By consciously acknowledging the lessons learned, the resilience cultivated, and the joys still present in your life, you shift the mind from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude does not erase pain, but it balances perspective, reminding you that life contains beauty, growth, and connection alongside challenge. When practiced consistently, gratitude transforms your relationship with the past, softening its edges and highlighting the value and strength that have emerged from your experiences. Presence is another essential element. When you fully inhabit the now, you liberate yourself from the grip of yesterday. Each breath, each action, each interaction becomes an opportunity to live fully, consciously, and lightly. Presence allows you to respond to life with intentionality, rather than react out of old patterns. It reminds you that while you cannot change what has happened, you have absolute control over how you carry it forward. The past exists, but it no longer defines your experience or limits your potential. Compassion, both for yourself and for others, strengthens this new relationship. Life is a shared human journey, and each person carries burdens, makes mistakes, and faces regrets. By cultivating compassion, you recognize the universality of imperfection and honor both your own humanity and the humanity of those around you. Compassion creates a sense of connection rather than isolation, and in this connection you find strength, perspective, and the freedom to release unnecessary emotional weight. As you integrate these lessons, a profound shift occurs. The past becomes neither enemy nor prison, but a guide. Memories, mistakes, and missed opportunities are no longer sources of shame or regret. They are markers of growth, proof of resilience, and evidence of your capacity to rise above challenges. You carry your past lightly, as part of your story, not as the defining measure of your worth. This is the essence of moving forward lighter, a conscious daily commitment to live with freedom, clarity, and peace. The ultimate message of this journey is one of empowerment. You have full control over how you relate to your past. You cannot change what has occurred, but you can change the meaning you assign to it, the lessons you extract, and the emotional energy you invest. You can choose to release burdens, embrace growth, and walk forward unshackled by regret, guilt, or shame. You are not defined by yesterday. You are shaped by your capacity to act today with courage, presence, and intention. As you close this book and step into life beyond its pages, remember that healing is an ongoing journey. It requires vigilance, self-compassion, and intentionality. It asks you to return to presence, to reframe narratives, to forgive, and to release control whenever old patterns arise. But it also rewards you with freedom, the freedom to live fully, to love deeply, to pursue growth, and to embrace possibility. The past becomes a source of insight and strength, rather than a source of limitation. You walk forward lighter, empowered by the knowledge that while you cannot rewrite history, you have absolute authority over how it shapes your life from this moment onward. You deserve this freedom. You deserve to carry only what serves you, to release what holds you back, and to live a life not defined by yesterday. The person you were, the mistakes, the regrets, the missed opportunities, exists as a part of your story, but it is not who you are today, nor is it who you will become. You are more than your past. You are resilience, growth, and possibility made tangible. You are courage embodied. You are life lived fully. So take a deep breath. Acknowledge the journey you have taken. Honor your growth, your courage, and your willingness to face the weight of the past. And then step forward, lighter, freer, and fully alive, knowing that the power to shape your present and your future has always been within you. This is not the end, it is the beginning. A beginning defined not by regret, not by guilt, and not by missed chances, but by the clarity, peace, and freedom that come when you cultivate a new relationship with your past. The past exists, yes, but it no longer controls you. You are free to live, to love, to grow, and to thrive. And in this freedom you discover the most profound truth of all: you were always worthy of it, and you always will be. Thank you for reading this book. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to leave us a review. TM Light. Disclaimer. This book was created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. While every effort was made to ensure the accuracy and relevance of the content, readers should note that this cannot be considered professional advice. Readers are encouraged to apply their own judgment and consult experts where needed.